you've been an observer of American politics for years. To give us a short overview, has something really changed regarding climate protection and environmental politics in the US?
Well, I think the most visible change is that Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Republican, belongs to the same party as President Bush, got his re-election accomplished basically on a green platform. So he managed a switch away from the majority in his party to become a green governor and to convince voters that he took these concerns to heart, which means that California, which is the biggest, largest single economic bloc within the United States, and I think the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, has taken environmental concerns to heart. And you cannot win an election without reflecting that and without putting that high on the agenda. And that shows you it's a big impetus. That doesn't mean it transfers to the heartland immediately, but it is the biggest bloc.
The political competitors of Al Gore now say, well, he has been vice president for 8 years, so he didn't do so much for the environment then, and this his movie is just sort of a show off. What do you say from your observations regarding Al Gore?
Well, number one is, as a vice president, you can't do that much. I mean, probably Dick Cheney was probably the most influential vice president in American history, but just, constitutionally, the vice president has no big input. His influence is how much influence does he have on the president. But I think it would be unfair to say that this is just show. He put this high on his agenda. It was basically his signature issue when he ran with Clinton the first time in 1992, and he was ridiculed. I was in the States as a correspondent and followed the election. He was ridiculed by Bush Sr., the Bush the elder, during the 1992 election, and he said, "Oh, the ozone man." So in other words, this guy, you can't take him serious. He cares about the environment. So, so he took a lot of heat for caring about the environment early on when it wasn't popular at all. So I really believe him. I think this is a credible effort, and it's good that we should be happy that people now follow him and care about the environment. Instead, of course, this is typical European, maybe typical German. We say, "Oh, but now he's successful. Shoo, 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 this is bad." Well, he's successful, people care about it, it's wonderful.
We see also in Hollywood a lot of activism of famous actors, George Clooney, Leonardo DiCaprio, Harrison Ford, just to say a few names. Is this just a show, like Hollywood is a show in itself?
Everything in Hollywood is also always a show. But that doesn't mean it's not sincere. It's hard to tell. I can't say for every individual actor or show person in show business what they really care about. I can only say that, let's take smoking, for example. It was a big issue in the 80s and 90s. That a lot of people now, have a health conscious image, and they talk up the fact that we shouldn't smoke and kids shouldn't smoke, etc., etc. And then off camera they still smoke. So that's as old as Hollywood. I mean, during the Prohibition, movies were made and people still drank. I mean, there's, but the main fact is these people are trendsetters. Some of them are probably sincere about their concern for the environment. Some probably are not. It doesn't really matter, but they have an impact on public consciousness in the United States. And if you and it does have a multiplying effect. So.
Right. Besides the show fact, we see that Americans, as far as I can evaluate that, look upon Germany and say, well, they do. I mean, like Chancellor Merkel and the EU presidency, they say, well, they can do something about the climate change. Why is it that they say Germans or the EU is eager to change politics?
I think the main thing is that the Bush administration sees Angela Merkel as the most dependable and reliable and fair, unbiased partner that they can get, and a partner that has clout in Europe. She got elected, although she, heads a very difficult coalition, and domestically maybe her clout is limited, but on the international scale, she's very diplomatic and can get things done in Europe. So she's a reliable partner. She's not anti-American. She has to keep her distance from Bush in some parts. So they're willing to give her something. And climate is something she cares about, but it's also something that Germans care about. She has to show some success. She has to show that she gets Bush to move into her direction. So they were willing. So I think these are some main reasons. But I think that the limits, we've just heard from Washington that some red lines have been crossed by the Merkel chancellery, and so I think we've reached the limit on how many concessions the Bush administration is willing to make.
Thanks, Tom.